Hello, guys. Welcome back. So today we're gonna talk about Forex weekly forecast for the week starting Monday 14th, right? 14th to Friday 18th July 2025. This Forex forecast for the upcoming week. So this week we saw that the dollar index on the weekly candle here had some retracements back to the upside. It's been quite very bearish, and I was expecting price to come down to the sell side. If you extend your charts to the right, you see where I was expecting price to raid here. This is very low. So I'm still generally bearish, right? I'm still generally bearish, but this coming week we're going to open soon on Monday or Sunday night, depending on your location. I am staying neutral until I see what price will do on the daily time frame on the very first day, so Monday or Tuesday. We have the CPI on Tuesday, so it will determine so much what we're going to do with price. But before then, I do not actually like the fact that we closed this little gap right here. We closed above this little gap right here. Ideally, I should still be bearish until we read this sell side, but I do not like the fact that we closed above this fair value gap right here. It's quite small in volume, but it's still something. So if we had just whipped through it and then closed inside this fair value gap, it will really also be a confirmation that we'll continue down to the sell side. But since we've closed above it, I'd like to see what price will do once price opens and then tip its hand. But for now, going by what I'm looking here, the candle for the coming week can probably go both ways, either to the upside or to the downside, right? But we will definitely need more information on the daily time frame, right? So now let me give you my bias on the daily time frame for the dollar index. For the dollar index, what I would like to see happen coming next week, right? So last week we talked about an opening range gap, an opening gap. This opening gap is on the daily time frame, and it can also be found on an hourly time frame. This gap is an open daily time frame and can also be found on an hourly time frame. So mentioned in the previous video that for us to be bearish, I would like to see this gap stay open. Like I like to see price trade into this gap and then back from it, right? But now we traded into this gap and then we've closed above the gap, right? So it simply means on the daily time frame, since we've closed above this gap, short term, I would like to see price either come with wick, touch into this gap or body, and then continue to the upside. We trade into the next gap. We might likely close in this next gap before we might return back to the downside if you're bearish. So on the daily time frame, I'm bullish, right? So for any reason, if we close above this gap here, if we should close above this gap here and then read this high, then my bias will definitely change even on the weekly time frame to bullish on the dollar index. But right now, I would expect to see price open, come down a bit, closing on this volume imbalance here, this gap is called volume imbalance. So closing on it and then probably return back to the downside. If we should close above this high, then it simply means we now have, especially if we go through this high impulsively, it means we've had a market structure shift and then we might continue to see higher prices. So on the daily time frame, I'm bullish until closing here for the dollar index. Let's talk about euro dollar weekly time frame. So for the weekly time frame on euro dollar, like we said last week, we've read a high. We've read a high here, short-term high, which is buy side. Quickly remove this outside, which is buy side. So whenever we read buy sides like that, we have to check out price. Is price willing to continue to the upside, or is price ready to run some, little retracement or reversal entirely? In this case, we're here to find out. But from the information we're having here, let me quickly remove this first. For the information we're having here, there is a fair value gap on the daily time frame. We have a low here of this candle, and we have a high here on this candle, a low here on this candle, and there's a gap here, right? Let me quickly annotate that. Okay, so we have the high on this candle and then the low on this candle. We have this as fair value gap on a weekly time frame, right? I love coloring my charts. So we have this on the weekly time frame, right? Now, the fair value gap has not been completely filled, right? Sometimes you might not see it getting filled completely. Other times you might get it to the 50%, and then from there you return back to the top. If we had this fair value gap open on our dollar index, like it was not closed up completely, right, on the opposite direction, then we'll definitely say we are still very bullish on the weekly time frame. But since that's not the case on the dollar index, and we're having this on the euro dollar, we might still need to see price coming down on the weekly time frame bit. So to get a confirmation, we need to see what we can find on the daily time frame, right? So these are daily time frame for euro dollar. So we rated buy side, and then we are starting to see some retracements. Although these candles, they are not, as powerful as I want to see them. They are not as impulsive. I would like to see them come to the downside. They're a bit choppy, so you can't really do much with this price action. But ultimately, if we are expecting price to come down on the dollar index, it simply means that on euro dollar here, I would love to see price to trade into this, little fair value gap here, or ultimately this one, right? If we are to go bearish. Now, if we should close below, I love covering my charts depending on the time frame. If we should close below this fair value gap, ultimately read this low impulsively, then I will go so bearish on the euro dollar. But as far as we remain above this, I'm still bullish generally. This is just looking at the chart from a daily and intraday perspective. I love to see price come down for a bit, but if we are to remain bullish, we should stay open with bodies above this fair value gap and generally above this low we're having here. So that's for euro dollar. So in summary, euro dollar, I'm expecting, working with daily range, I would like to see price stay above this and above this, but generally bearish for this week, depending on the results we have for CPI on Tuesday. For USD CAD, all right, for USD CAD, last week I said I would love to see price read this low, the sell side, right? The main reason for that is that this weekly fair value gap, we had the low of this candle and the high of this candle, and there's an impulsive move, so it gave a gap. We closed slightly below this gap, which gives us this idea this confirmation that we are still bearish. And since we close below it, I do not want to see price go above and close on a weekly time frame outside this fair value gap, right? If not, give us the indication that okay, we want to go bullish. But since we close below it, I would like to see price, read this low before making any movement up to the upside. So we're still within range inside this weekly fair value gap on the Canadian dollar, right? So generally, I'm still bearish on USDCAD as far as we stay inside this range, inside this weekly fair value gap. If we close above it to the upside, I'll be bullish. But if we close below it, I'll be bearish. So we have one whole week for we to decide that, which simply means we have to go into the daily time frame to get our bias, right? So on the daily time frame, we saw price trade into this fair value gap with a week and then come back down. We didn't rate or we didn't close below this low, which would have given us, a general idea that we're bearish. If we had closed below this low, we had a break of structure, some of you call it, or a market structure shift, which a shift to the downside. But no, we didn't close below it, right? So instead, we had a range inside here, still within range inside the weekly fair value gap. So if we were to go to the upside, I wouldn't want to see price close above this daily fair value gap on a daily time frame. If we close above it and then have a closure above this week, then we have a structural shift for the upside, which will give us a bullish movement. But we're still within range, and price is quite choppy right now for us to have something to work with. But going to my head, I'd love to see a close of candle, price opening, price closes with a candle, let's say below 50% of this fair value gap, and then rally down to the downside on our daily time frame, right? For GBPUSD, let's turn to the weekly time frame. So previously we've been having a bullish movement. We have a fair value gap, trade back into the fair value gap, return back up, create a fair value gap, trade back into it, create a fair value gap, return back to it, and then move to the upside. And we have a buy side liquidity here, right? But then this week we did not tap into the buy side. Instead, we saw the weekly range giving us an impulsive move to the downside like this, right? So this coming week, what do we have in store? Well, as far as we have the bodies of these candles staying above this weekly fair value gap, as far as we do not close below it, we're still bullish, right? So I would love to see price open, move to the downside on this weekly time frame, but generally I'm still bullish. For us to confirm our bias, we have to move down to the daily time frame. Now I'm going to repeat this. For you to be sure about your bias, if you look at the weekly time frame, you're not so sure, you have to move down to the daily time frame, check out for liquidity, check out for inefficiencies, and see if you can find anything to help you frame a trade idea. For example, we looked at the weekly time frame, we didn't see much of something we can work with, but look at the daily time frame. I'm already seeing what we can work with. We had bullish price movement like this. We created a fair value gap here. If we are to remain bullish on the daily time frame, we're supposed to see price come in here, trade into this fair value gap and then move back up. However, we're going to find price. We do not want to see price close below the fair value gap. If we close below the fair value gap, it might indicate that we are changing direction, either short term or long term. Right? So on Friday we close below this fair value gap, which simply means that this fair value gap will be acting as support short term. We might see price open, trade up into this fair value gap, and then start coming down, to read this low or trade into this weekly fair value gap. But fact is, we've closed below this trading this fair value gap on a daily time frame. So which simply means we might see some bearish price movement for a while. So on a daily time frame, I would be bearish on the pound dollar. So I think these are the four pairs we're going to analyze for now. If you've enjoyed this video so far, I need you to subscribe to my channel, like the comments, make your comments, and then comment on any pair or pairs that you love me to talk about next week, or to make weekly forex forecast for the coming week, and I'll be very happy to do that. Until next time, I wish you good luck and good trading.